All right. Does anybody want to open tonight in prayer? If not, I can, but I just wanted to offer.
Go for it.
All right. Dear Lord, I thank you so much for today, the fact that all of us were able to make it here. I thank you for this study and everything that you've been showing each one of us as we sit down to go through it, the things that you have been highlighting, showing us just about ourselves, about our routines, our habits, and where we need rest and where we need to rely on you. Holy Spirit, I pray that you would be working tonight as we are on this call, teaching us what you have in store for us to learn and convicting our hearts in the way that they need to be, moving us forward in the direction that you would have us go. And so, Lord, I just pray that you would bless this time. And I just pray for everyone else that is doing this study but couldn't make the call tonight. Lord, I pray that you would protect them and guide them also as they're doing the study, that you would be teaching them and showing them things as well. I lift all this up to you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Okay. So, are you guys okay with me reading the next section of this book that on the Sabbath, like kind of how we did last week? Was that okay with you guys? Okay. So we left off on Jesus' take on the Sabbath. So it reads, it was a lazy Saturday afternoon, hot with clear skies overhead. Jesus was hiking through a cornfield with his apprentices like you do. It was a Sabbath, and this is one of many stories about Jesus and the seventh day. Built into Jesus's life rhythm was a core practice, an entire day every week set aside just to slow down, to stop. I'm totally envisioning that scene in The Chosen, if you guys have seen it, when they're like walking through the cornfield. Now I think of The Chosen all the time in these stories. But on this particular Sabbath, Jesus got in trouble with the Pharisees. They took issue with how Jesus and his friends were celebrating the day, royally missing the heart of God behind the practice. In a loving rebuke, Jesus simply said, the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath, which is Mark 2:27. What a stunning line. Here we are, thousands of years later, reading and rereading it, yet sadly often misreading it. In context, Jesus was beating up on a legalistic, guilt-heavy religious culture that had totally missed the Father's heart behind the command to slow down one day a week. Translation: a culture that was, in this area, the exact opposite of our own. First century Jews needed to hear the second half of that command. The Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. They had it backward, cart before the horse and all that. Fast forward to the 21st century. We aren't legalistic about the Sabbath. Most of us don't even practice Sabbath at all. A day off? Sure. Sunday worship? When I can. But Sabbath? Very few of us even know what that is exactly. The Sabbath isn't a new idea. It predates Jesus by millennia. It's just new to us. My fellow Portlander and dear friend A.J. Swoboda wrote this. The Sabbath has largely been forgotten by the church, which has uncritically mimicked the rhythms of the industrial and success-obsessed West. The result? Our road-weary, exhausted churches have largely failed to integrate Sabbath into their lives as vital elements of Christian discipleship. It is not as though we do not love God. We love God deeply. We just do not know how to sit with God anymore. He continued, we have become perhaps the most emotionally exhausted, psychologically overworked, spiritually malnourished people in history. I would argue that 21st century Americans need to hear the first half of that command. The Sabbath was made for man. It was created, designed by God himself, and it's for us, a gift to enjoy from the Creator to the creation, to gratefully receive. In his iconic one-line teaching on the Sabbath, Jesus was tapping into a practice as old as the earth itself, a practice that goes all the way back to Genesis 1. In the beginning. So the story of the Bible starts with, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, but after 6 days of hard work to get the universe up and running, we read the following. By the seventh day, God had finished the work he had been doing, so on the seventh day he rested from all his work. Then God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it he rested from all the work of creating that he had done. Did you catch that? God rested. Yeah, I'm not really into the Sabbath. I'm an extrovert and I just like to stay busy, and God rested. Yeah, I get the Sabbath thing, but I work a demanding job that I love and I just can't make the time because God rested. Yeah, I have 2 kids at home and it's just not really doable right now. Maybe later when, do I need to say it again? God rested. And in doing so, he built a rhythm into the DNA of creation, a tempo, a syncopated beat. God worked for 6, rested for 1. When we fight this work 6 days, Sabbath 1 day rhythm, we go against the grain of the universe. And to quote the philosopher H. Farmer, if you go against the grain of the universe, you get splinters. I've had people laugh off the Sabbath with a terrible cliche. Yeah, well, the devil never takes a day off. Last time I checked, the devil loses. Plus, he's the devil. The last time a society tried to abandon the 7-day work week was during the Revolution in France. They switched to a 10-day work week to up productivity. The rise of the proletariat and disaster. The economy crashed, the suicide rate skyrocketed, and productivity, it went down. It's been proven by study after study there is zero correlation between hurry and productivity. And in fact, once you work a certain number of hours in a week, your productivity plummets. Want to know what the number is? 50 hours. Ironic, that's about a 6-day work week. One study found that there was zero difference in productivity between workers who logged 70 hours and those who logged 55. Could God be speaking to us even through our bodies? My point, this rhythm isn't the byproduct of human ingenuity, that the ancient version of the 7 habits of highly effective people that we're free to adapt or change as we see fit for the modern era. It's a way a brilliant mind designed our souls and society to flourish and thrive. Fight it, fight God. Fight God, fight our own souls. Now, what does the writer of Genesis mean by rested? Was God tired, burned out? As I've said, the Hebrew word Shabbat means to stop, but it can also be translated to delight. It has this dual idea of stopping and also of joying in God and our lives in his world. The Sabbath is an entire day set aside to follow God's examples, to stop and to delight in the world, in our lives in it, and above all, in God himself. If you're new to the Sabbath, a question to give shape to your practice is this: what could I do for 24 hours that would fill my soul with a deep, throbbing joy, that would make me spontaneously combust with wonder, awe, gratitude, and praise? Dan Allender, in his book Sabbath, had this to say: the Sabbath is an invitation to enter delight. The Sabbath, when experienced as God intended, is the best day of our lives. Without question or thought, it is the best day of the week. It is the day we anticipate on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and the day we remember on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. Sabbath is the holy time where we feast, play, dance, have sex, sing, pray, laugh, tell stories, read, paint, walk, and watch creation in its fullness. Few people are willing to enter the Sabbath and sanctify it, to make it holy, because a full day of delight and joy is more than most people can bear in a lifetime, let alone a week. And all of this is rooted in God. He rested, he stopped, he set aside an entire day just to delight in his world. But notice what else God did. He blessed the 7th day and made it holy. 2 things worth noting here. First, the Sabbath is blessed. In the Genesis story, 3 things are blessed by God. To start with, God blessed the animal kingdom with an invocation, be fruitful and multiply. Then he blessed humanity the same way, be fruitful and multiply. And then God blessed the Sabbath. Wait, so God blessed animals, humans, and then a day? What does that mean? It means that the Sabbath, just like an animal or a human being, has the life-giving capacity to procreate, to fill the world up with more life. Life is tiring. Case in point, most likely you read that line and sighed. You get to the end of the week, and even if you love your job, you're still worn down on every level, emotionally and even spiritually. The Sabbath is how we fill our souls back up with life. Recently, I read a survey done by a doctor who cited the happiest people on earth. Near the top of the list was a group of Christians called Seventh-day Adventists, who are religious, literally, about the Sabbath. This doctor noted that they lived 10 years longer than the average American. I did the math. If I Sabbath every 7 days, it adds up to, wait for it, 10 years over a lifetime, almost exactly. So when I say the Sabbath is life-giving, that's not empty rhetoric. If this study is to be believed, every day you Sabbath, you're statistically and scientifically likely to get back an elongated life. From now on, I'm Sabbathing 3 days a week. And not only will you live longer, even more importantly, you'll live better. So first, the Sabbath is blessed. Secondly, it's holy. Have you ever thought about that, how a day could be called holy? This would have been jarring to the original audience in the ancient Near East. The gods were found in the world of space, not of time. They were found in a holy temple or on a holy mountain or at a holy shrine. But this God, the one true God, Creator God, is found not in a place but in a day. If you want to go and meet with this God, you don't have to make a pilgrimage to Mecca or Varanasi or Stonehenge. You just have to set aside a day of the week to Shabbat. Stop long enough to experience Him. So there is a day that is blessed and holy, a rhythm in creation, 6 in 1, and when we tap into this rhythm, we experience health and life. But when we fight this rhythm, ignore it, suppress it, push past it, bully it, make excuses, look for a way to get out of it, we reap the consequences. Consider the mind. We grow mentally lethargic, numb, uncreative, distracted, restless. Emotional unhealth becomes our new norm. Irritability, anger, cynicism, and its twin, sarcasm, overwhelm our defenses and take control of our dispositions. Or consider the body. We get tired and worn out. Our immune systems start to falter, miss a step, another cold. It's like our nervous systems are trying to get our attention. Yet we push on until inevitably we crash. Something in our minds or bodies gives out and we end up flat on our backs. I have told my story. I told most of it at the beginning of this book, but I left out the part about my being a type A workaholic, running off ambition, or what do we call it now, drive, with no clue how to rest. I had a weekly day off, sure, but I spent it catching up on all the work I never got paid for, bills, the yard, etc., as well as things like shopping and entertainment. Sabbath wasn't even in my vocabulary, much less my vernacular, but we all come to Sabbath, voluntarily or involuntarily. Eventually, the grain of the universe caught up with me, and I crashed hard. My sabbatical was like playing catch up on a decade of missed Sabbaths coming to collect with interest. I'm guessing you have a story too. If not, you will. Sabbath is coming for you, whether as a delight or a discipline. Maybe that's why God eventually had to command the Sabbath. Does that strike you as odd? It's like commanding ice cream or live music or beach days. You'd think we'd all be chomping at the bit to practice Sabbath, but apparently there's something about the human condition that makes us want to hurry our way through life as fast as we possibly can, to rebel against the limitations of time itself. Due to our immaturity, dysfunction, and addiction, God has to command His people to do something deeply life-giving, to rest. There are a number of Sabbath commands in the Bible, and then he goes on to talk about two of the most important ones, which we can talk about next week. So I just thought that was cool how he brought in what Jesus said about it, and then also from the very beginning, the details about God starting that practice of Sabbath. So I wanted to hear from you guys first. Did any of you have any big ideas that you've taken away from the study, either week 1 or week 2 so far?
I just wanted to say I watched last week and I really enjoyed. I know I wasn't able to make it, but it was awesome to hear. I'm not sure who said it, but the saying yes to something means saying no to something else, and you're purposely doing that. I just loved that, and it made me like think about choices I make, and I always like weigh, like, is it the best choice and all of that. So that was super powerful to me. And I wasn't even there. So I'm really happy you record these and post them. So thank you, Dee. And then I just wanted to say, like, I felt like last week I was like, I know this is a gift, but like I don't know how to use it. Cause like the first Sunday I like took off, but then like I was like panicking on Monday. Cause I was like, I didn't do all the things I'm used to doing for my family. And now I'm just stressed out and this wasn't a good gift. And I like didn't know how to really like appreciate the purpose of it. And so like this week, understanding how, she talks about it's not just a day, it's almost like a mindset of like, you don't have to work to be enough. You don't have to like just keep pushing through, that God intended rest. And so I think my big takeaway just from last week and this week was like creating margin is saying no to things, but it's also accepting the gift of rest that God's given us. And there's nothing bad about that. I don't know why, like what you read, like it's like saying here's a bowl of ice cream, like who wouldn't be happy about that, or beach days. And so I think that's just new for our mindset. And I really, it's already impacted my daily choices. And so I'm really happy that you're doing this study, and I love it so far. So that's my one takeaway.
Thank you for sharing. I know when I first read this book, I like wanted to start incorporating stuff, but I didn't know how exactly. And I remember one of my good friends who gave me the book, she had already started practicing like her version of Sabbath with her family. And she told me, she was like, it's kind of frustrating because you want it to be perfect. Like you want to figure out like, okay, this is how my family and I are going to practice Sabbath. We're going to take Sunday off and we're going to totally enjoy each other's company. And she was like, do you know what we did? We fought all day, like her and her husband. And I was just like, okay. And I was like, maybe that's spiritual warfare because you're choosing to give your day to the Lord, and the devil's like, I'm going to mess with you a little bit. But so we were laughing about that. But it's like, we think like this is a really easy concept, but it's so not ingrained in how we live that it's not easy to actually put into practice at all, because we don't realize how much we rely on every single day to get everything done.
I've been reading like some additional things, and the Seventh-day Adventist was kind of interesting to me because they celebrate Sabbath on Saturday, like the Jews. So one of the articles I read, they do a lot of preparation on Friday for Saturday. Like they'll get their meals ready and anything else that they need to do so that when Saturday comes, like Lauren, you're saying, I didn't get everything done for start the work week. So they try to do what they can on Friday to be able to have Sabbath on Saturday. But the interesting thing is then they have Sunday to get ready for the work week, where ours is happening right before the work week. But what I wanted to say, every article that I read, I think just really summed it up well. And beside it being a restful day and a day to remember the Lord, it's a day for us to refresh. That word kept popping up to me and the additional things that I was reading. Refresh, refresh, refresh. So that's all.
Thank you for
So
sharing.
I think if you try to look at it that way.
Yeah, you're right. You're right, Debbie. I did think about that. Like, oh my gosh, if I'm going to be good at this, I need to be very productive on Saturday and
Right.
Friday night. That's what I thought. Like, I need to be better at planning ahead, or just, really accepting it. But that's true.
I am still kind of stuck on the phrase that I said about choosing to say yes means choosing to say no. And then it was in this week, at the beginning, to experience Sabbath margin, you must make a decision to stop something. And it was kind of that opposite, right? Like not just choosing to try to implement Sabbath on top of all of our other things, but actually, what are we making a decision to stop doing? And that just kind of came up a couple of times that she talked about the discipline to decline. How the Israelites had to learn the discipline to decline. And yet, how do we do it in our modern world, like you're talking about? And I was actually thinking about this Saturday portion. We actually have friends who celebrated more like Friday evening to Saturday evening. And so they would kind of prepare things, but then after church, they were free on Sunday. They were then free to kind of do their preparing for the week because they had really intentionally set aside. But I find it interesting because if I look at my calendar, it just doesn't always perfectly fit in that model, right? So what do you do? Like, we actually had a wedding on Saturday, and I was thinking in my mind of, not that it took away from it, but that from the time we started that until Sunday afternoon, that was part of our rest and joy and celebrating, that window of 24 hours. So I was trying to just consider those things like you talked about, and how it's going to have the ebbs and flows, and looking at each week instead of being rigid, like it has to happen, all day Sunday. That maybe I was kind of like, what works in our family or for this season, right? Does 5 o'clock or like a dinner time Saturday through a dinner time on Sunday work? I don't know about you guys, but a lot of us take a nap on Sunday afternoon after church and all the things, so that's what I'm kind of at, asking those questions of creating the margin by saying no, but also looking at our real life. And maybe it's week by week that I might have to adjust it from a Friday to a Saturday or a Saturday to a Sunday, but being intentional to plan for it. So that's kind of what some of the things I took away, as well as they eagerly awaited and set aside their weekday concerns. I was like, oh, how can we eagerly await, right? That sounds tricky to me. But even a little, like a mini takeaway, I would say, is I'm considering what would a few hour, like mini Sabbath, I'm calling it, in the midweek look like? Like, even if I just had a couple hour window to stop, to walk on the beach, or to prepare ahead. Maybe that's when I make the list or do the things. And so kind of like a mini Sabbath to ease into it was something I was considering too. Maybe that could be self-care sometimes. Maybe it could be preparing, reading, whatever those things are, but maybe it's in a mini version, because right now in my life, I've got an hour sitting here waiting for a student to get out of school or something like that. How can I look for those many opportunities throughout the week as well? So lots of questions, not a lot of answers this week for sure.
But how much more valuable is that? I feel like everything that Jesus was against with the legalism that the Pharisees were like having, you can have the idea that like only from Saturday at night to Sunday at night, is your Sabbath. Or like you could have that mindset, which is, I think, a lot of like what Priscilla is talking about is like the mindset of Sabbath, of like entering rest with God, like all throughout the week. And I know Aunt Dee had talked about that last week, but I was reading in Daniel today, and it was just talking about like the whole thing that got him thrown into the lion's den was he continued praying to the Lord how he had always prayed when there was a ban put on that. And he went to his room and he prayed, and he prayed 3 times a day, and he went at the lunch hour or whatever and prayed like he always did. And I was thinking about that, and I was like, like, how different would my day go if I started it with prayer? If in the middle of the day I stopped and I just started praying, and then at the end of the day I ended my day with prayer too, instead of just like randomly shooting off prayers when I thought about it, but being intentional with that time, which is like what you're saying too. It's, it can be completely renewing and refreshing, like for your mindset. And I think it is more of at least I think for me, it's been a mindset thing as much as it is a day thing, or like parameters or margins or like planning ahead, all of that. But like, it's also my mindset. And I didn't realize how much it was until we were talking about it. Mason and I were talking about how life-changing this book has been for me, reading about the Sabbath. And Mason was like, it really hasn't been life-changing. Like he was totally like telling this other person, and he was a pastor, and he was like telling him it's really not. And I was just like, and then later I was like mad at my husband, and I was like, are you saying that you do not notice how different our lives are? And then I realized, I was like, oh my gosh, I think this is a mindset thing that I have that's not even vocalized out loud because I'm doing extra preparation work. And then Friday night going into the weekend, I'm putting extra effort into dinner, and I'm excited because we're going into the weekend and we're going into family time together and rest time. And I make a dessert, and I'm like, I buy flowers for the table and they're on the table, you know, and I just want to like make it special. And Mason just comes home and he's like, oh, nice dinner. And he, you know, he doesn't know that I'm like in my mindset, I'm like entering into this time of like rest and like family and worship. And so I do think mindset has a ton to do with it too, of like looking at it differently, like you said.
You should have brought him the list for next Sunday and said, is it life-changing? Because I have all these things to get done. Babe.
Yeah. Do you not know?
I actually listened to the recording because I wasn't able to be on last week. And I got a good chuckle, but happily chuckled when Donna talked about Bob and all the things, you know, that maybe she has listed to do for his weekend, you know, of rest. And so he's happy about, you know, not having as much to do now because Donna realized that. But I think that's something everybody has to realize, because even if it's not chores around the house, even if it's like, well, we have to go to this party or we have to go visit these people, I think we get so caught up in lists. Like the Pharisees, they had such a long list of what you could not do on the Sabbath. And it kind of lost the meaning for them. So I think we just have to realize that, you know, it, like you said, it is okay to say no to things. And sometimes maybe that's what your weekend is about, just to say no and have time with your family, go to church, remember the Lord, go outside, see what he's made and done for us, and not get into getting so stressed about, okay, it's Sabbath, we have to not do this, but just enjoy the day. You know, like I think obviously this wasn't a problem back in Jesus's time, but I think in our time, it's a really good day to turn off technology. You know, no emails, no Instagram, no Facebook, whatever you do, like just turn the phone off, put it on vibrate. And it's amazing when you think about how much time you do spend on technology. So I think that's a big thing for me, is just to kind of not do that for the day.
I totally agree.
Yeah. I mean, the Lord wants us to remember him, to spend time with him, to appreciate him, to thank him, to be in prayer with him, and to rest.
The second question was, what sometimes makes it difficult for you to resist the urge to continue? So I think she led into that with talking about how even though God told the Israelites not to go out and gather on the Sabbath, they still did it anyway. And she was just talking about how even though we know certain things are like not good for us, when we're like trying to rest, we can't help ourselves and we continue doing the things that are not life-giving. What sometimes makes it difficult for you to resist the urge to continue?
Because I think I can fix it myself. If I just keep going, if I just keep trying, and it's like God reminds me, like, you can wear yourself thin, but I am going to be the one to provide, and I'm going to be the one to fix all. I when I was reading about the crops, even like you need to take a year off for the land, I like knew that, but it was like an aha moment with this study, and I was like, oh, that is so cool. And the amount of faith that it takes for, you know, you say God's going to provide enough in the 6th year. So I thought that was cool. But I think my own control issues are what stop me from, or don't stop me. I don't know how it was worded. Sorry. You know what I'm trying to say. Okay.
I think I have this idea that I can relax better after the job is done. I don't know if that makes any sense or not, but I feel like it won't be on my mind. I won't be thinking about it. I won't be having pressure. So all I have to do is get it all done. Then I can breathe.
Mm.
But the problem is usually it takes me twice as long as I think. So I realize it's going to be a challenge for me, to be really honest with you. It's going to be not just overnight, but very intentional. And I have to agree, it can't be just one day, especially with the season I'm in right now with caregiving. I'll have to make a day of the week to just shut down and, what did you call it, Debbie? Like refuel. And that's where I think the blessings will come in, when we allow God to fuel us back up and feel his blessings. And so it's good for me. This is good. This is good.
Yeah, I'm the same way, Mom. I mean, I totally know what you mean. Like, my whole goal on Fridays is to clean the whole downstairs so that everything that I'm interacting with on the Sabbath is clean so that I can be at peace and enjoy it. And I haven't been able to clean the last 2 weeks just because of traveling and then the kids being sick and everything else. And so it's like really dirty, and like the floor being dirty and things like that, it just like makes me almost anxious. Like, I'm just like, ugh. And so like, in order to just like totally take a day aside while it's dirty, like that's going to be a challenge for me, because I don't want to do that. Like, I want to clean it first and then rest. And so I'm totally the same way.
I wonder where you get it from.
I was gonna say, why are we so crazy?
I 100% agree. And at least now I know I'm not alone, because I live in a house full of boys and they just don't see the stuff. So they can literally like plunk down in the middle of whatever mess and enjoy themselves or whatever it is. So yeah, it's definitely a challenge. I agree. Like you said, Donna, about this is the biggest challenge for me. And I wrote down that I was trying to think of what the root is of it, of really like wanting the freedom of feeling like something is done, like, so you don't have to deal with it anymore. So it's like out of sight, out of mind, kind of, that there's this idea that there's a finish that brings just a feeling. I don't have to think about it. But when I was praying this week about it, I realized it's really a false premise, because most things we do have to be maintained or learned or practiced. I mean, outside of like a science fair project, what things really do we work on that isn't like a system? I mean, you can complete all the emails. It's always my goal. Or I can clean the whole downstairs. I'm like you, Deanna. I'm like, I want it all clean, at least one level.
Yeah.
And then by Monday, it's like, because we all enjoyed the weekend, it's all a mess again. So why do I keep doing that?
Yeah.
Why don't I just do it on Monday and not worry about it? But as I really was thinking about the heart of it, if I realize, for me, I'm calling it like a false feeling, right? A false feeling that I'm aiming for, then maybe I'll be able to kind of take that breath and stop and be okay stopping in the middle. It's been a challenge all my homeschool years, wanting to finish. Just let's finish this lesson before we go out and take a break or whatever. And boys need breaks often.
Mm.
So that can become a real driving, unhealthy habit for me. And so learning to just leave it all on the table or leave it wherever we're doing it and step aside for a minute often totally clears our head when we come back, right? To actually get to a better finishing spot. So that is one of my lifelong big challenges, to not get compulsively stuck in trying to finish something and making everybody else in my household frustrated. So
yeah, I totally agree with all of that. On page 59 at the very bottom, I underlined and starred this section that kind of goes into our last question. I'm just going to read it to you guys. It said, God used Sabbath to transform the minds of the Israelites from a slave mentality to one of a free people. He did it by commanding them to honor a Sabbath day, which was critical, but his primary purpose was to create in them a Sabbath heart. By being obedient to the law of the Sabbath in their actions, resisting the urge to continue, their hearts and minds would begin to cultivate a different perspective about their new relationship towards work and toward Yahweh. I just thought that was like really good. Like I went back and I reread that and I was like, whoa, like putting into practice something physically was putting into practice something mentally for his people, changing the way that they thought about something. So the last question is, in what ways has God led you through the process of first requiring you to honor and trust him, and then progressively changing your heart and your attitude?
I'm going to go ahead and go on this one. I feel like God, he can work in us in a way that he knows our struggles already. And so I feel like he is allowing me to see how there's things that really aren't that important. And what was said earlier about when you say yes, was it you, Lauren? When you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. That is so true. And realizing or being able to see insignificance of something so that it's not as hard to let it go. So for me, I think that's how I see that God is cultivating my mind in order to cultivate my heart. He's allowing me to understand it first, that it really doesn't matter. This really doesn't matter. So that my heart could be at the right place when I'm spending time with him. And I've actually really enjoyed just being out on the patio and in the morning when it's raining or cold out and realizing, this is just my God time. This is my time with him. So, and not allowing everything, even if I have dog hair all over the kitchen floor, it's like he's letting me see this isn't that important. So that's for me.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a big one.
I think for me, the word is process. It's really hard for me to not have like a beginning and end mindset versus things that are in process, and that it's okay to stop in that process. That's the mindset that is primary in this. It makes it hard to stop because if you have a beginning to end mindset, you always want to get to that finish line. But yeah, I just keep writing the word process, that it's okay to, it's a dumb example, but process your emails versus completing them all the time, right? Am I working on something consistently where it's moving forward, but I don't get in that slave mentality, and stuck in it. So cultivating that mindset.
Yeah. I think for Mason and I, like with our house, that was a big one for us last year because I felt like the Lord was asking us to wait on building it, and we didn't really know why, but we were very prayerful through that whole situation. And the Lord did so much work in my husband's and my life in that season, where we weren't having our focus shift on things that were material. It was very, it was shifting all of our focus on spiritual things. And so the Lord did such a cool work through that now we're actually in the season of building our house. And it was it's crazy. I was thinking about it today, and I was looking over, and the roof trusses got put on there today. So it actually looks like a house as it's being built. And I was like, Lord, it's actually happening. It's really happening. And it was just really fun to look back over this last year. And even though, it was delayed for a period of time, I know that what the Lord took us through during that was so much more important than having a house that was built when we thought it was going to be built. So I think a lot of times, looking back at major stepping stones in our life, when it's going through a process and it's not necessarily an easy process or something that we would choose to want to go through or something like that, like I can see where the Lord was like grooming us in a way, like getting our hearts back to him, and allowing us to trust him and like lean on him more. And then like as our like perspectives changed through each like scenario, then it's like moving forward. And even if something continues to still happen, our minds and our attitudes, our lives have been changed, like in that period of the work that was going on. I don't know if that makes sense, but anyone else have anything that they wanted to share other than that? Okay, did anyone have any prayer requests this week?
Are we doing prayer request? Is that what you said?
Mm-hmm.
Back in the winter time, I guess like back in February of this year, I'd asked for prayers for my neighbor. He's 23 and he was having a lot of mental health issues with depression. His name is Jackson. And he had undergone some treatments at Johns Hopkins Hospital, and he was doing better, got back to work and was functioning, but he has had a major relapse now. So if we can just keep him in our prayers.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
And his family, parents are, obviously struggling, trying to do everything they can do to help him. And so, yeah, just that. And then a praise that everybody in the Dyer household is healthy again.
I know. That is a praise. Krista, how have you been feeling your health-wise? Because I know that's one of your prayer requests last week.
Yeah, thank you. I'm challenged, but more good days than bad days. I have the 21-day reset, and I am looking at just some multiple factors that I need to learn and really implement. Mm-hmm. So that was a lot of this week, actually, in the Sabbath and the margins and things. So yeah, I'm challenged, but trying. So more good days and bad days. That's the praise part of that. So yeah, it's the days that aren't good are like I told my husband, like the weighted blankets for like a dental X-ray mm-hmm. like blanket they put on you. It's that kind of just heaviness type exhaustion. Mm-hmm. And so yeah, like I said, having 2 out of 7 of those instead of vice versa is yay. Yeah. For that. So, but yeah, just trying to get back some guidelines, talking about Sabbath, but regarding guidelines. And so yeah, thank you. Just needing more clarity for sure.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we'll continue praying.
Thanks.
I would like prayer just for the doctor to be able to let us know what tests we need for my father. He just seems to be in a lot of pain, and we're kind of guessing what's going on. And so today my mom and I decided to email the nurse and ask her, what steps do we need to take to find out what's going on? What tests do we need to do? Because it just seems like he's going downhill so quickly that we need to make him comfortable, but we don't even know what's wrong. So that's the biggie right there. But she happens to have a doctor that doesn't respond real quickly. So we sent an email today, and I just, would pray that she'd get back to us for at least within the next 48 hours so we can try to arrange some tests and stuff. Yeah.
Mom, today when I was praying, I prayed that the Lord would supernaturally allow Grandpa's doctor to have Grandpa on their heart to like look into what's going on, because I feel like the whole situation is just so frustrating. So
It is. And I didn't realize what my mom goes through every single night until I stayed with them last night. And then after just one night, I thought, how is she doing? She's done this for 2 months straight. And it's just, I can't even imagine. So something's got to give. We've got to figure it out, you know. But thank you for praying, Dee. We need it.
yeah. Laura, you got anything, girl?
I would love prayer for work to know the end date. I feel like the Spirit told me I could teach in my elementary school till Christmas. And like something I realized is when I started the year, because I teach part-time, I only put in the days until Christmas in my calendar, my work calendar. I realized that today.
Wow.
I know. And I got interrupted and was like, I'll do it later. And just in case someone wanted to do vacations or something, I wanted to know what days I was teaching exactly. And so I never went back and did it, which is weird for me. But I just not to feel the heaviness, I think, of everything going on and my decisions and the responsibility I feel to my students and parents, and then also my beliefs. And so just guidance, God's wisdom. I just keep praying. That'd be sweet. Thank you.
All right. Well, let's pray. Lord, I thank you again for bringing us here together. I feel like only you could do something like this, having us all over the country, different time zones, not even knowing each other before this call, and then also being very close to one another before this call, and just bringing this all together. Lord, I praise you for the plan that you had to make this happen. And I thank you for our conversations tonight and the things that we get to learn from one another. As we move forward through this week, I pray that you would help us know how to put these ideas into practice in our life, to actually make that time and space to have moments of rest with you all throughout our week as a mindset, and then also to have a day where we do get to rest and we do just get to worship you, Lord, and focus on you, and let all of the worries that constantly surround us, that pile up on our plate, just dissipate as we focus on you, Lord. So I thank you for setting that example for us. I thank you for giving it to us as a gift. And I just pray that the more that we learn, the more that we actually will view it as a gift and use it as such. Lord, I pray for Jackson and his family. Lord, I just pray that you would pick him up. I pray that you would pick him up out of this pit that he's in. I pray that you would save him both physically, emotionally, spiritually. Lord, I pray that you would lift him. And I just pray for his parents and everyone else that's involved in his care, and that who love him and care for him. Lord, I just pray that you would give them strength and patience and wisdom to know how to help him. I just pray for Krista, that you would continually give her strength and give her wisdom on how to continue to strengthen her body. And I just pray that you would also just give her a peace as she's seeking this idea of Sabbath in her life for her and her family. Lord, I just pray for Lauren. I thank you for the resolve that you have put in her. I thank you for all the different ways that you have structured her personality and the things that matter most to her, and how much she cares about other people in her life and the children that she teaches and what she has chosen to do. And Lord, I just pray in this time that you would continue to speak to her. I pray, Holy Spirit, that you would give her very strong leadings where she should go, what she should do, the timeline that this teaching at her current place will be. Lord, I just pray that you would really illuminate the path that you have her walking forward, and guide her. And I just pray for her husband too, as he's seeking jobs, Lord. If they are supposed to move, I pray that you would make that very clear to them. And in this season of just unrest, I just pray that you would give Lauren a supernatural peace, that even though she doesn't know all the answers and she doesn't know everything that's going to happen, that you would just allow her to lean her head on your chest as you hold her and just guide her, Lord. I just pray that she would be able to rest as she knows that you're going to take care of her. And I pray for Mom. Lord, I pray that you would give her strength and perseverance, endurance, patience, grace. Lord, I know that this season is so hard, and I pray that you would give her wisdom to know how to interact with Grandma and take care of Grandpa. Lord, I just pray for the doctor that's been assigned to him. I pray, Lord, that you would wake that doctor up and allow them to know that something is going on here, to respond quickly, to be able to intervene on their behalf. And I just pray for Grandpa, Lord. I pray that you would miraculously heal his body. If it's your will, Lord, I pray that you would touch him and heal him. And Lord, I pray that you would allow him to be able to communicate with Mom and Grandma about what he needs and how they can help him. And I just pray for Grandma too, Lord, that you would give her strength and patience, and just endurance also in this season. Lord, we lift all these things up to you. I thank you that you got us through this week with all the sickness here in our house. I praise you for our body's abilities to get rid of sickness. And Lord, I pray for a hedge of protection, that you would protect us from all the germs out there for a little while, that we could have a reprieve, a rest. And I just pray that the kids are able to get back to their 100% selves in the next couple of days. Lord, I pray that you would heal them and me. So, Lord, I thank you for hearing all of our prayers. I thank you for caring about all the details of our lives, the small ones and the big ones. Thank you for allowing us to even come to you in this way, to have a personal relationship with you and to seek you. And Lord, I pray that you would protect us as we move forward throughout this week, guide us in our studies and in the choices that we're making. I lift all these things up to you in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. Thank you for being on tonight's call. Loved seeing you guys.
Thank you. Good, Deanna.
Good night.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Bye.